Hi guys, so I'm here to tell you about the game Off the Rails. So Off the Rails is a Kickstarter that I backed recently and just got it in the mail. It's one of those ones that I got into it going, that looks kind of cool, not sure if I really like it or not. It wasn't getting a huge hype, so I backed it and hoped for the best. And I'm so glad that I did. This is one of my favorite Kickstarter games so far. I love the mechanics of it. It plays easily. The components are great. So this is a simple pickup and delivery game, but you also have some extra mechanics in there that make it a little bit more than just your normal pickup and delivery. For this one, you've got a little bit of take that action to it where you can actually ram into other people's mining carts as you're down in those mines trying to collect jewels. You know, make them drop them, and then you can pick them up, kind of like Cold Express. When you punch someone, you can take their money and make them drop their money. There's also the whole laying down your tiles, kind of like Whistle Stop, where you're creating your own path in the mines and trying to get to different places, and you can upgrade those paths so that you can have more options to get out. Overall, great game. Love it. Fairly simple to learn. And the playtime is a little long sometimes with 2 players. I'm guesstimating about 45 minutes. Takes out my husband and I about 45 minutes to play. And that's if we're right on top of it and just know what we're going to do each turn. So overall, I would say if you get a chance to play this or a chance to purchase it, I would say it's a definite yes if you like those kind of games with, if you like Whistle Stop, the idea of kind of like a little bit of take that, but you don't have to do it. Pickup and delivery for sure, but not quite as lineal as Whistle Stop where you're going from one side of the board to the next. This one you can kind of swerve and turn and go in lots of directions. Plus, by the end of the game, you have to watch out for those chasms where they're opening up and trying to essentially swallow your mine cart, and you'll lose everything that you mined at the end of the game. So a little bit of press your luck at the end as well. Do you keep going and hope that you don't ever, encounter a chasm or get caught in there and you can't get out? Or do you get out safely and see who else is stuck in there? So that is Off the Rails, and let's learn how to play.
Gameplay is fairly simple. Set up the board in the middle of the table where everyone can reach it. Create stacks of the track tiles so that they are in reach of all players. Let the youngest or least experienced player choose their color of their mining carts. If you have more than 2 players, hand out the rest of the mining carts in random order. If you only have 2 players, then the player must have the color that is opposite of what the first player chose. So, as an example, if you are me and my husband always chooses green. So that means that I have to be yellow, because if you look at the board, yellow is the color directly across from green. After this, make sure all the gems are in the bag, give a stockpile to each player, and you are almost ready to go. But first, we have to set up our deposit deck. Now that you have each deck separated by color, you're going to flip them over. Make sure again that they are mixed up, they're not in numerical order, and you're going to make 8 different piles with 1 of each color in each pile. Okay, so you made your 8 decks. You actually only need 7, so you can get rid of the last deck of cards and put them back in the box. Don't look at them, just keep them in the box. At this point in time, you're going to put your chasm card in deck number 4. So just count your decks off, and your 4th one is where your chasm card is going to go, or chasm. I'm not really sure how to say that word. And then you're going to, depending on how many people you have, you may or may not have to get rid of some decks. So if you have 2 or 3 players, then you're going to get rid of deck number 1, and that's just going to go back into the box. So we're going to keep going as if we were playing a 2-player game here, and we're going to take this one out. Then you also are going to take deck number 7 and you are going to place this up on our board here on the Chasm deck spot. You will not look at these cards. And you also need one color of each of the Chasm tokens, and you're just going to place them on top because this is for later when you have the actual Chasms opening up. And then last but not least is deck number 6. So second to last one, you're actually going to flip these ones over and you're going to generate deposits based off of the cards. So generating deposit, we'll talk about here in just a second, but we'll put these off to the side. You are going to actually be drawing jewels based off of these cards. And so then what's left is you have 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're just going to shuffle each deck and put one on top of the other. 2 goes on the 3, and then that stack goes on top of the 4, and then that stack goes on the 5. So the deck that has the Chasm card is not going to be the very last card that you have. Once you've got everything done, you're going to put your whole deck onto the deposit deck space on the board. Okay, so you have everything set up. You just have to do the first deposit before you can actually get going. So when you generate a deposit, what that means is you're going to be putting the jewels onto the board. And to do that, you need these cards. So remember we had that deck 6 that we pulled and I said you're going to use to generate your first deposits? Well, these were those cards. So on each card, what you're looking for is the number of jewels you're going to pull, what color mine you are going to place it on, and the actual number of the mine. So if we look on the board, each of our mines has the numbers 1 through 8 around it, and then the mines are actually around it. So think of this as kind of like the central area, and then this around it are the mines. So the 8 spaces around it are where you can actually find the gems. So for this one, we had to do 2 gems in the number 5 space. So here's number 5. So it's the one in the corner. So we have 2 gems. And then the 8, we have 3. And then over here, we had to do 2 on the 3. Oh, look at that. We got a rock. Not cool. And then over here, we had to put one on the 1 space. So anytime you have to generate deposits, that's all it is. It's just drawing a card, looking at the amount of jewels you have to draw, and what space and color you're going to put it on. Okay, so it's time to start the game. For each of your turns, you have 3 phases. You have your action phase, your movement phase, and your generate deposit phase. So let's go over what you can do during your action phase. During the action phase of your turn, you can do up to 4 actions per turn, and you can do them as many times as you want. You can repeat any action as many times as you want, obviously up to 4. So the 4 things you can do is, first things is you can place a track tile. To place, these are the only 2 that you can choose from for a basic tile, is the straight and the curved. The other thing that you can do is to upgrade a tile. If you've already placed a straight or a curved tile on the board, you can upgrade one of those to the T-junction. If you already have a T-junction placed, you upgrade the T-junction to the 4-way split. So obviously this is kind of like a step process. These are your basics. This is one step. You can place one of these. Then another turn, you can upgrade one of these to a T-junction. And then once you have a T-junction, you can actually upgrade to the 4-way stop or the 4-way crossing. After that, there's also that you can place a minecart. So you can't just put your minecart onto the game board. One of your actions during your turn is to actually take your minecart and to place it on one of your surface level starts. And so that has to be one of your actions if you would like to get your cart onto the board. When you start your cart, the die always starts at speed of 3, whether it's your black die or your white die. And then the last thing that you can do is you can change the speed of the die to 1 up or 1 down. So I can go up to a 4 or down to a 2 if I want to. And your speed die just tells you how many spaces your cart is going to move during the next phase of your turn, the movement phase. So before we go on to your movement phase, let's talk about tile placement. Tile placement in this game is fairly simple. You can change the direction of any tile when you place it to any direction you want. Tiles do not have to connect with already pre-placed tiles. So for example, if I wanted to place this corner tile all the way over here, where it's not connected to anything,
that would be fine. You also can place them so they don't actually connect to an already placed tile when it comes to the actual track. So for example, if I wanted to place here, that is fine as well. The only thing that you can't do is you cannot place a tile on a pre-existing tile. So there are no overlays here. And you also cannot place your tiles here in the middle so it covers up our guide for our mine numbers. Okay, so it is your next phase of your turn, the movement phase. So for this phase, you actually have to move all carts that you have on the board. So at the moment, I only have one cart and it's still at my surface layer here. So on my die, it says that it has 3 spots. So when you move your cart, it has to go in the direction in which the front is pointing. So that's why we have this nice little arrow here in the front. So I need to move 3 spaces. So if I go 1, 2, 3. Now, at the end of a turn, if you land on a space such as a T-junction or a 4-way, you must decide which way you want your cart to start at the beginning of your next turn. So for example, if I want my cart to continue towards those rubies for my next turn, then I have to leave my cart facing this way. But if I want to head this way, at the end of my turn, I have to actually change the direction of my cart so that way it's heading in one direction. While you are moving, you are also able to collect jewels. So say that we have our green cart here, and our green cart is going to move 3 spaces. So the first thing it's going to do is move 1, and we come to where it's just going to be passing over this track. But because there are jewels here, I get to stop here and pick 1 jewel. Unfortunately, because there's a rock, I have to take the rock first. So when you collect a jewel, it's fairly simple. You look at the color of your dice, and on the bottom of the board, where in your color, there's a white area and a black area for your 2 carts. And you place this here. Obviously, you can only have 5 jewels here. So once it's full, you cannot collect any more jewels. So that was number 1. So now I'm going to go to number 2, and I'm passing through here. I want the gold because it's worth more, so I'm going to put that again in here. And then because I am currently moving, I can change directions at this point because this is a 4-way cross. So I can continue forward for my last, or because I can see some jewels over there, I'm going to change direction and I'm going to stop here. So because I stopped on a track that has jewels, I can take up to 2 jewels from that space if I have room in my cart, which I still do. So I'm going to choose the diamond and 1 emerald, and I'll place those also in my cart over here. During your movement, you can also run into some problems when you meet up with other players. So for example here, we can see that the green cart and the yellow cart are going to have a head-on collision. So it's the green cart's turn. So the green cart is going to move the 3 spaces that a die tells us to move. So we're going to go 1, 2, but unfortunately, that means that we're going to have a head-on collision. So for a head-on collision, if you hit one other, a couple of things are going to happen. So the first thing that's going to happen is both of the carts are now going to have to go in the opposite direction that they were going. So the yellow is going to go back the way that it came from, and the green is going to go back the way that it came from. Also, the opponent that was hit is going to have to give up some jewels. So if there are any jewels in the cart, the owner of that cart will split their jewels equally in both hands, and then the green cart owner will get to choose one of those hands. If there are any jewels in that hand, they then have to drop those jewels on this tile. If there are no jewels in the black area for the yellow cart, then this cart has been derailed, and that means that it is out of the game and back into the supply of the owner of the yellow cart. It does not mean that it's out of the game permanently. It just means that they've lost any jewels that they did have. Well, they don't have any because they're out. and then they'll have to replace it as one of their actions during their action phase next turn. You can't have a collision where you hit another person on the side. So let's say that it's yellow's turn. Yellow's turn has to move 6 spaces, and they want to hit the green one. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, and when they hit the green, they hit them on the side. So the only person who got hit in the front was the yellow cart. So the green one will still have to give up any jewels, or half of their jewels that's in their green area. Oops, put it in the white section. Will have to give up half of these, so they're gonna lose 2, but they do not have to change direction. The yellow though did hit on the front, so the yellow would have to change direction and go back the other way. There is one type of collision where no one gets hurt. So if you have a scenario where one person is going to hit another, but if you notice, our tiles are not actually connected here. Our track actually ends there. What happens is the yellow cart is going to move forward. It's going to pick up one cart on the way here, or one jewel on the way, and then it's going to hit the green cart, but it's kind of like bumper cars this time. All it's going to do is change the direction of the yellow cart so that it goes back the other way, and they'll be able to pick up another jewel as they're heading on their way back. Nothing bad happens to either person, no one loses jewels, and no one is derailed. Phase 3 is very simple of your turn. At the end of your turn, flip over the top card on the deposit deck and generate a new deposit for that card. At some point in time, somebody is going to do their generate deposit phase, and when they flip it over, they're going to reveal the Chasm card. At this point, this is not a huge deal because we still have one round of stuff happening before the Chasms actually hit. But you're still going to do your normal card. You're going to generate your 2 or 3 stones for whatever color and mine you are supposed to do. And then whoever showed the Chasm card is going to place it in front of them. At this point, everybody else is going to have one final turn to generate gems and generate deposits. So if you have a 2-player game, for example, my partner or my opponent is going to have one turn where they're going to deposit gems. So they're actually going to, at their phase 3, they're going to deposit a gem based off of this. And then when it comes back to my turn, that's when the Chasm card is going to take effect. Okay, so it's that time. It is the last time you've had your last deposit phase, and now you've gone through your actions, you've gone through your mine carts, you've moved them, and now instead of generating deposits, you are the person that has the Chasm card right in front of you. And so now you're going to do the Chasm deck. So you have 1 Chasm coin for each color, and you have 4 cards. So you're essentially going to do exactly what we've done before for generating deposits, but now you're going to be placing the Chasm tokens. So you're going to flip over and generate a Chasm for each of these. So it's very simple. You put your Chasm token onto the space that corresponds with the card number. So for example, I'm going to be placing this one here. This one is 5, so I'm going to go over here, and it actually takes the place. You can just throw off the token. It's no longer needed because now there is a big hole where there used to be a track. And then you're going to keep going. There's a 4, so we're going to place this one here, and then we have a green 6, and that one's going to be over here. If you generate a Chasm or chasm, and somebody's cart was on that space, then this is the end of the game, so the rules are slightly different. If a cart is on a chasm space after the Chasm card has been flipped over, they are out of the game, so it does not go back into the person's supply. So let's say, for example, that when we generated this red chasm, that the green cart was there, the green cart would then be derailed. They would lose all of their gems from their storage area, and they would then be out of the game. It would not return to the player's supply. So when does the game end? The game ends when there are no more carts on the board or all of the chasm tokens have been placed on the board. You may replace a cart onto the board if there are other carts still out there. So for example, the green has a cart here. It made it all the way out and there's still a yellow cart out there. Even though the chasms are popping up right and left, if the green wants to push their luck, the green can, during their action phase, place their cart and plan to move back into the mines. Again, this is a little bit of press your luck, but if you've got the braves to do it, go for it.
Scoring at the end of the game is very simple. Use the reference guide in your stockpile to see how much each type of gem is worth. Count up your score and see who wins. The person that has the most rubies also gets a 5-point bonus. Also, you should check to see if you have any carts left over that have not been derailed at the end of the game. Each cart is worth plus 3 points at the end of the game for your score. Count them up. See who is the master miner in the game Off the Rails.